Trump's big win last night put renewed focus on the Supreme Court's coming decisions in his immunity case. They will likely decide on Monday if Trump goes to trial for his actions on January 6th before or after the election. Huge. This means what will happen in November is playing out right now at the Supreme Court. Today, Donald Trump was handed a big win. The Supreme Court made it more difficult to prosecute January 6th rioters and made it more difficult to prosecute him as well. In order to prove an obstruction charge, the court now says prosecutors need to show that a defendant interfered with documents, records, or other material parts of an official proceeding, sent the case back to a lower court to determine how January 6 cases stack up against that test. Looking ahead, on Monday, the court is likely to hand down a decision on the immunity case in Donald Trump versus the United States. Justices are looking at whether, to what extent, a former president enjoys presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office. Former federal prosecutor Shan Wu is here, who also served in the Clinton administration as counsel to Attorney General Janet Reno. They are connected because the Supreme Court is involved. They are connected because Donald Trump is involved. Do we read anything from today's decision about Monday's decision?
It's hard to read anything about it besides the timing. They keep wanting to push off, it seems like, the immunity decision. You said something before break that you thought that their actions, the Supreme Court, might change everything.
Right. So if Joe Biden makes it through the weekend, right, and he's already responding and fighting back against the New York Times, and he gives a speech, shows pretty well, and then all of a sudden the Supreme Court gives Donald Trump absolute immunity, then the media pulls the oxygen out of the room of talking about Joe Biden, and all of a sudden all they're talking about is Trump justices. That gives Biden breathing room. Gotcha.
So I think that a little bit unlikely they're going to completely come down on the side of immunity. That would be quite a staggering decision. I think it would take the air out of their own sails a lot, too, in terms of their public image. More likely, I think, they're going to kick it back down to have more fact-finding. It's going to result in like a mini trial as to which of the actions does the trial court find were within this outer perimeter, which are official, which are not official. Basically, it's going to chew up a whole lot more time. It's hard to understand why they didn't do this much earlier. I get you don't want to release the decision the night before the debate, but they could have done it 2 months earlier. I think the January 6th case that came down today, a lot of brouhaha over it. Will it affect Jack Smith's prosecution of Trump? I don't think it will. I mean, it affects some of these folks who have been convicted already, but they actually had a quite specific carve-out about whether there might be fake documents involved, and that's one of the issues in the Trump charges. Is in notion. So just because, so the fact that they, and maybe the fact that they didn't just throw out wholesale all of the cases, the January 6th obstruction cases, it tells you that the court is looking for middle roads here. Either way, and even some of the coverage of this latest case. Here's the media, NBC News, talking about the January 6th case decision today.
We're coming on the air with breaking news that could impact hundreds of people charged in connection with the January 6th attack on the Capitol and potentially former President Trump.
If we don't deter Americans from trying to block the peaceful transfer of power, do we still retain a constitutional republic?
To those who breached the Capitol, former President Trump was also charged with 2 counts of obstruction.
Of course, he will try to use it to further delay the proceedings in his own case.
Okay, and I think reasonable people can agree that there's a lot of anger by the left at the Supreme Court and by the Supreme Court justices. Do you worry at all what George Will was talking about on Monday, that continuing to delegitimize the court is going to backfire, or could backfire, if Donald Trump is elected, because the only people who put a check on the executive is the court?
I think it won't backfire if he's elected. I think it'll work perfectly for what he would like to do, which is to basically stack it more, not in terms of numbers, just, you know, replace more conservatives with conservatives, liberals if they retire. I don't think, honestly, don't mean to be flippant about this, but I don't think the court can get any more delegitimized than it is right now. It seems to be viewed in such a partisan way. There are some internal splits starting to develop there, even among the conservatives. I think this is sort of a bed of their own making at this point.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.